Welcome to the latest episode of the Informing Choices mini-pod. In this episode, in collaboration with Sylvia, Gallusser and Silicon Humanism, we're going to explore the future of connected entertainment experiences. Connected entertainment could refer to a new paradigm of interactive, personalised and networked experiences across digital media. It represents a shift from passive consumption of content to dynamic engagement, where complementary technologies collaborate to deliver more intelligent, adaptive, and connected entertainment. To explore the future of connected entertainment experiences, Sylvia and I are joined by Forward Studio co-founder and chief strategy officer, Rachel Noonan. Rachel, warm welcome to the podcast.
Hi, happy to be here. Thank you.
Now, we're going to be referring, I'm sure, at points through this podcast to the near future of connected entertainment, a report that you're closely associated with, and a link to that will be in the description of the podcast. But let me start with this, if I may. What is a seamless, contemporary, connected entertainment experience? What does it look like?
I mean, we see kind of tones of it in the market right now. If you're at amusement parks like Universal Studios, for example, Harry Potter World has, I would say, one of the best examples of that that's in market and functioning, because it's not an easy thing to make these happen. But when you go into Harry Potter's world, there's certain locations that you can go to with your wand. And when you're in that spot, you can magically cast spells, right? So you have this lo-fi device, which, seems to just be this, a stick, if you will, but it conjures up these powers that allows you to make sounds happen and visuals appear. And that's all based on embedded technology that's hidden, within the park that you're actually not seeing. So you're seeing the connective tissue of these physical items and these digital items to bring a narrative together and to enable somebody to play and interact in an interesting way. And there's evolutions happening with that right now. I think there's a lot of experiences that aren't evergreen, right? That certain brands have brought to market that are unique, but they're promotional in nature, they're one-time uses. Whereas the Harry Potter example, I think, is one that shows the use of technology in a way that has stability and also abstracts from the technology. So the fan is just able to play in a unique way, regardless of what technology is involved.
I mean, one of the biggest things going on in London at the moment is the kind of a War of the Worlds experience, where you get some of these kind of experiences, a bit of virtual reality mixed in with human actors. Is that another example of how kind of entertainment is changing, and we're starting to see these technologies embedding themselves into what the customer enjoys?
Yeah, it's interesting that example is a really strong one. I mean, years ago, I want to say almost 10 years ago, Alejandro Inarritu, who's a filmmaker, created an experience, an immersive entertainment experience, more like edutainment, kind of entertainment and education converging, called Carnegie Arena. And it was a multi-sensory experience to understand what it was like to be a refugee and go through that immersive experience. And it was VR was the main technology, but other technologies, can be touch, feel, and smell. And it used wind and physical objects. So you're physically walking through, a large experience and getting to have a tactile experience, but also a technological experience as well. So when you're in headset, you're looking at the POV of the refugee, but then your body it's almost like haptic feedback, the way that, VR has endeavored to try and replicate it. And sometimes you can't, right? Sometimes actually like a physical complementary aspect to a digital experience is your best bet. And you're seeing the evolution or revolution, whatever you want to call it right now, in the last week and a half. Snap announced their new AR glasses, and Meta announced Orion, their version. And now they actually have two, right? They have the Meta Ray-Bans, and then they have these new Orions, which are intended to be pure AR. And VR has, for the last more than a decade, has been positioned as this, connected technology platform or tool, when in reality it's actually quite disconnected if it's not taking into consideration all the modes of communication, right? So, they've made the evolution with pass through, which is your ability to put on a headset and see through into your real environment at the same time, which might be a transitional technology to, what the augmented reality ends up being. But it's a really cool time now, because the concept of connected experience is becoming extremely real. And for me, it's really about taking the physical and the digital and making them feel seamless. So a consumer doesn't feel like they're learning a new technology or having to adopt or adapt to new things. It feels really native. And you saw that with Orion and the launch of Orion, where it needs to look good, period. The Google Glass of 10 years ago proved that, aesthetic matters and continues to matter. But the battery pack and the wristband feel natural, which is getting us a lot closer than we've been in the last 15 years to what a true connected experience can look like.
And what are the underlying trends that are actually powering that? I mean, you've spoken briefly
Mm.
there about a number of technologies, and one could imagine that, 5, 10 years ago, perhaps not even that far ago, some of these technologies, as you were just talking there about the aesthetic, wouldn't have been, up to the task. So, I guess there's a couple of layers here, and there's the technologies themselves, but then there's the demand from the person wanting to be entertained. So, what are the underlying trends that are feeding this growth?
I think there's two paths to that. One is, well, the trend of micro technology, right? So microengineering, motherboards and chips getting smaller and having better processing power.
Mm.
There's always been a desire for consumers to, engage with new and novel technology. We see that with people blindly purchasing $1,000 headsets and, these interesting devices, and the hundreds of millions of dollars that get raised on Kickstarter or other platforms that are trying to fund and develop these new technologies. But oftentimes it's a snake oil sale, right? Where they're pitching a product that actually doesn't have the hardware or the software that's capable of delivering the technology. So you have, NVIDIA, obviously the belle of the ball right now, and Snapdragon is pushing their technology and their capabilities in a way that is fundamentally going to change not just connected entertainment experiences, but live entertainment and, B2C, B2B, the whole ecosystem. So you have this trend of technology at this point getting smaller and more efficient, cost effective, questionable, because Orion, for example, uses a kind of lens technology that they had anticipated the market was going to adopt, and they didn't. So, the entry price point is still, I think it's over $1,000 for a pair of glasses. And then what you're seeing is consumers getting more comfortable and feeling safer using these technologies. And you're having a lot of digital natives maturing and having budgets to be able to spend on a lot of these technologies. Obviously, with a large portion of them, they're still not at a point of scale, right? And that's going to take
Yeah.
years. And something that is really interesting, and most really smart people in this space know that as much as we're curious, we're extremely fearful of the future. So it prevents us from, really leaning in and providing the economies of scale for a lot of these companies to continue to build and develop these products. So I'm excited because I see people, for example, wearing the Meta Ray-Bans on a daily basis. The glasses make
Yeah.
sense. They're providing this really significant utility. And that I would say, would be another really strong trend is companies building these products are moving beyond entertainment and really focusing on utility as well. And that's where the rubber hits the road. It's why the internet became the internet. It's why, we're here and we're talking on a chat around the world, because the power of the utility was so strong, which is really exciting because that's when it really scales.
Rachel, one question. So you're mentioning this daily usage of Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses. At the same time, that a lot of users still use it just monthly, and you're talking at the same time about new exciting experiences. I'm wondering, from your experience as a strategist, as a futurist, from the report you just published, which is excellent, does the evidence suggest that we are maybe moving from on the entertainment side, not the utility side, but are we maybe moving from something like a more traditional consumer electronic B2C business model that would equip individuals with mixed reality devices to something that would be more like an experiential business model, like B2B2C? People go to a place, to a mall, to a concert, to a theme park to enjoy a unique VR experience that is more memorable, but that is more like something like a couple of times a year. Do you see that in your experience?
Yeah, so 100%, and that could be a response to post-pandemic behavior, right? Whether it's conferences or concerts, people are coming back. I mean, you see it with brands like Meow Wolf, or Sleep No More. Sleep No More was it's lo-fi. It's an immersive theater, multi-floor immersive theater experience that happens in New York. But people are going back. The tickets are selling out. People are going to concerts. Meow Wolf is also another highly immersive museum type experiences that uses technology in really interesting ways in the user experience of the physical space. And they're playing with VR, they're playing with different tools to help tell the story. And they're very story forward. And then they'll use the technology to bring that story to life, which is really interesting. We're not seeing sellouts at VR only locations. So that people are still going, and they're going in the same way that they're going to movies in a traditional theater, is they're going to be together for the most part. Like, there's the Oppenheimers of the world and like large scale films that warrant being on a large screen. But fundamentally, people are going because they want to date, and they're going because they want to see their friends, and they're looking for a collective group experience to be able to do that together. And whether it's an escape room or a comedy bar or team labs, which is, I think, a really interesting example of the pinnacle of an immersive physical experience. There's 2 team lab experiences in Japan right now, in Tokyo, and they are really emblematic of a truly connected experience because, again, as a user, you're going into a physical space, but technology is embedded throughout each experience. There's another one in New York called Mercer Labs. And Mercer Labs, again, it is using technology in a way that pushes the narrative forward, as opposed to, oh, let's supplement this museum experience, which is amazing. Snap does a lot of really beautiful filters for the Louvre in Paris, bringing artifacts back to life, which is quite beautiful. But for example, at Mercer Labs in New York, one of the stations or stops that you do in this immersive experience is you're given a piece of paper with a cartoon animal outline, and you're given markers, right? Just like simple markers. And then you draw it in whatever way you want, and you hand it to a team member, and then they scan it. And then that scan gets put up in real time, digitized and brought to life in a digital screen visual where your animal and the colors that you put on that piece of paper are brought to life, and that animal is walking around in a forest with other animals. It's breathtaking. It's so lovely and so playful, and adults and children alike are kind of mesmerized by it, right? So that, the way, I see it, that's a really successful connected experience. And then right next to it is a ball pit, just a simple, fun ball pit that has, technically no, hi-fi technology to it. So yeah, I mean, they're doing well. Like any type of entertainment experience, it requires marketing and promotion, because only, when we tell people that we've built it, do they come. If they build it, they will come kind of scenario doesn't always hold true. And that's like, even in Fortnite worlds, right? When you spend a lot of money, and a brand builds a nice little hang space in Fortnite, you have to program against it. You have to promote it. You have to have people coming to it and populating it, and creating community around it. So I think the learning from that is that whatever you create needs to be created for and with the developers and the creatives, because they're the ones that really bring life to it and make it relevant, which Meow Wolf was born essentially from an artist collective. And that's the DNA of who they are. You can see it today in the work they do.
One of the things that strikes me is the importance of kind of the human in how these technologies and how these experiences are deployed. So, on the face of it, it could be deemed that a lot of these things are kind of purely digital, but the
Mm.
social nature of how these things are truly experienced is the piece that really adds value and builds on what we've experienced before, rather than creating something completely different and that might be described as purely digital, because the
Mm.
enjoyment is the mixed element of it, and if anything, more of the human element.
Yeah, agreed. It's um we do work with a lot of festivals, and we have companies we talk to that want to create these really interesting and unique experiences, and building off of, existing physical footprint, how do we enhance it with digital? And I'll usually ask the question, okay, let's start with the consumer.
Hmm.
Go to a festival and watch somebody try and find a bathroom, right? Like that we're simple creatures, and we continue to live in a physical world. And if you kind of build the experience based on our fundamental, not necessarily fundamental needs, but the fact that we have really base level needs that oftentimes aren't met. So if you create this like highly digital, highly immersive experience that is going to require you to potentially detach from where you are, in your current space, and you're also just dealing with rudimentary stuff like I need to, get water, I need to find my kids, I need to whatever those, the criteria of your existence is, factoring those into when you're coming up with the idea or the concept, I think will help you be really successful. And in some instances, being purely digital can make sense. It could be a Web3 NFT digital scavenger hunt, right?
Right.
That may not need to ever make its way into a physical space, which is absolutely fine. So understanding, what you're designing for, what the purpose is. I mean, I remember when Twitter was launched, and I met friends and created community. And the first time I had met them years after developing those relationships was at South by Southwest. And, some platform organized a bus, and we all got on the bus and we met each other. And so that kind of, the parasocial social relationships can oftentimes, be born online. And again, that's knowing your audience and knowing what the purpose of the build is can
Right.
help you design the solution for it.
Rachel, very interesting what you were mentioning, and it reminds me of a few things I've seen developed in metaverse universe or VR experiences, which is now people are asking for universes that are less polished. Sometimes they wish you could see I don't know, a trash can. You could see a bottle on the floor. You could go have a drink and have some water spilled, and someone that, like, people are looking for that kind of not so polished experiences. Have you seen that in your experiences as well?
We haven't, and that could be because of the brand control of the partners that we work with in relation to the world building piece to the puzzle. What we're seeing is people realizing that it's a very similar use case or problem or need to social media platforms, right? So you decide, I want to be on X, I want to be on Instagram, I want to be on Fortnite, I want to be on Roblox, whatever those channels are. You can build a great world, but you have to pay to support it, pay to promote it, pay to maintain it. And that channel needs to serve a purpose, right? And if you're a content creator, that's one way to kind of approach it. If you're a brand that's looking to, say, convert or create awareness, so there's a more critical eye being put on them. And the ethics is also a big piece to the puzzle of these platforms and how they're treating their audiences. And it's really interesting seeing platforms like, say, Roblox is now wanting to be a major destination for music discovery. And with that comes a whole set of needs and rules. And at the end of the day, you need to pay creators to build those worlds. So I think there'll be some consolidation of those worlds in the next year, probably.
Rachel, thank you for those insights. You've certainly opened up a very large can of worms, and I'm sure we could go on talking about that for ages. But in the interest of time, let's kind of park the journey up to now, because in the next episode we're going to talk about some of the scenarios in the report, and then really get underneath what the longer term implications might be for life, society, and business. So thank you very much indeed for your time. And
Oh, thank you both.
thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to this episode of the podcast. Do like and subscribe, and don't forget to tell your friends and colleagues all about the Informing Choices mini pod. And we'll see you on another episode very soon.